Okay, hello. Okay, hopefully this is working. And welcome to this week's live. Thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure to be back with you and to talk about languages. And this week, well, we're a week away from the International Day of Multilingualism, which takes place on the 27th of March each year. And it's something that was set up by a friend of mine, Thomas Black, who started it a few years ago with the intention of having a day that's actually for multilingualism, because we have Mother Language Day and we have celebrations of Indigenous languages, and we have celebrations of other languages. There was recently Irish Language Week, Scottish Gaelic Language Week. We have these types of weeks to celebrate individual languages, but there was one missing for multilingualism. So we thought, he thought it was a good idea to start that, and he asked me to help get involved a year ago to help to celebrate it. And I thought that was a great initiative and a great thing to do. And I thought it was the right thing to do on the Polyglot conference live environment, which we set up for the first time in 2020 for the Polyglot conference when we couldn't be in person. And so we have rooms on there that we can join. It's basically these different planets, and you click on the planet and it opens a Zoom room. And so we'll have the same thing there as well this year. If you want to sign up, you're very welcome to use the link. It's in the description on the YouTube video. If you were at the Polyglot conference in 2021 and you already have a login, you can also already join just as part of the ticket from the Polyglot conference. It's the same details that you need again. And you're very, very welcome to join. We'd love to see as many of you there as possible to celebrate. We will be recording the presentations as well, but we obviously won't be able to get them out straight away. It takes quite a lot of time for me to process the individual recordings, and there's still a huge backlog from the Polyglot conference. So bear with me. There's not a huge team behind all of this. I know maybe some people think that there might be, but there isn't. There's well, when it comes to recording the videos and getting them out there, it's basically me. So I try and do it in between my work, my studies, and my family commitments as best I can. I have sort of made a big effort the last week or so to release 4 videos from last year's event, so that I could whet your appetite with the types of things that we've had last year. So definition of multilingualism, very good question right off the bat, Joe. Hello, welcome to everyone joining, by the way. And remember to like and to follow me and to subscribe and all that kind of nice stuff as well. I always forget to say that, but I suppose I should say it more often. So multilingualism really is, it's the Latin form of the word polyglot. Polyglot is obviously the Greek form. And multi, what does multi mean and what does poly mean? Well, it just means many. Now, we talk about, usually people talk about monolinguals with one language, bilinguals with 2 languages. Some people say trilinguals for 3. Some people trilingual when we're trying to learn languages as well. I like that there's somebody called trilingual. And then I think after that, people talk about multilingualism. Usually we don't really hear about quadrilinguals or anything like that. We usually talk about multilingual. So I think officially probably it would be around there. But to be honest, my thought is that it's more about different languages at different levels. And if you're interested in more than one language, then you're welcome under the banner of multilingualism as far as I'm concerned. I don't want to see these terms as being exclusive in any way. I think from my point of view, the idea of a language learning community really should involve as many people as interested in hearing about various languages. And whether you're learning your first or your 21st language, you're equally as welcome in this community. And I welcome you, and I know that I've actually learned a lot from monolinguals in the past about language. And so yeah, I'm a great believer in, even if you only speak one language that you feel confident in and you're interested in many more, please join us at the Polyglot conference at the International Day of Multilingualism, the interest in languages is the important thing, I think, for a day like, multilingualism. I don't think anybody does, or well, particularly the people who arrange it. They're all very open and welcoming, and yeah, I definitely echo that sentiment. And I'm not a big fan of learning languages to be exclusive. I'm more a big fan of learning languages to understand more people and to be more inclusive. So that's kind of my ethos generally. So I would expand that out to the definitions as well. Tiffany, I don't think of myself as multilingual for a long time because I didn't feel comfortable speaking languages I'm learning. Yep. And that's fair enough. That's fine. We don't all feel the same about everything, and I think that's absolutely fine. I think the important thing is that we're honest with ourselves and we feel comfortable in our own skins, and that we help and encourage people in positive ways to feel welcome and to feel at ease. And we all have something to gain from everyone being happy and feeling encouraged and feeling positive about themselves and about what they're doing. And look, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this whole thing of language learning generally, it's a positive thing you're doing. I mean, there's no competition, there's no prize at the end of it, there's no there's no ribbon I can offer you, but what I can offer you is a warm welcome, and I can offer you an environment with other kindred spirits who hopefully will become lifelong friends, and they'll benefit from having you around too. Because if you come in that way, then we will just love having you with us, and that's really as simple as it is for me. There's nothing more complicated to it than that, and I just look forward to seeing as many there as possible, and for you to connect and for you to get motivation and to feel understood, to feel that you're getting intellectually what you need, emotionally as well, in the capacity of, we're meeting with other people who are learning languages with similar struggles and the emotions that go with that. Sometimes I think we can relate more than we imagine. It's very tempting to look at, particularly in the language learning community, people following a journey and saying, oh, and I've done this and I've learned that and I've done this and this is where I am in my journey, and feeling like it's kind of stories of only success, right? And it's a rocky road to learning a language sometimes, and I think that we need compassion and we need understanding, and we need to be able to say when things aren't going so well, and to know that that's fine and that's okay and that's normal and that's what we all go through. I've definitely gone through it, and so I would love to think that you would all be able to reach out and connect. So please do, and as I say, you're all welcome. The tickets for the event, if you haven't got a ticket for the conference, are donation based. So there's even an option to get a free link, to get a free ticket. If you have any problems getting in or with your logins or whatever else, just let me know. Send an email to the Polyglot Conference at gmail.com, and I'll do my best to help you out. But if you do have problems, please do try it out a little bit in advance of the actual event. I do sometimes get requests for emergency sort of help when the thing has actually started, and as I say, it's a team of me doing the technical support. So if I'm actually presenting people and listening and doing the event itself, it would be very difficult for me to do tech support when I'm actually at the event. So please do remember to, if you get a ticket, read your ticket. Don't just get your ticket and see it in your inbox and leave it. Don't leave it unread. Open the ticket, look at the instructions, because the instructions on how to join are all in there. You get that automatically when you sign up for a ticket. And the reason why we do it on a voluntary basis for donations is because I want to welcome as many people as possible. And the only reason why I have the ticket available with a payment is so that first of all, that helps to pay for licenses to run the event, because it does cost money. I can't obviously do it for free and pay. That would be really, really difficult for me. And the only other reason is that having that system where you get a ticket would be also that it automates some of the process for me, so that I don't have to physically send out an email to each individual. So make sure when you get your ticket, you read the ticket information. And also just to say, it's the tickets from 2021 conference that are valid, not 2020. It's a different system. So the ticket for each year's conference, the live environment, is valid for 1 year. And you can take part in the language exchanges that go on there every week. Our great communities organizes these wonderful language exchanges there every week too. So check those out as well, and you may want to join. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring you a number of talks throughout the day. We haven't set the finalized version of the day itself, but it's likely to be from sort of morning time, Central European time, right through the day into the evening. And there are going to be some when I'm not even awake, for the Americas. So I think there was one at wanted to be at like 3 a.m. my time, which is a reasonable hour in the US and Canada, but for me, unfortunately, a bit too late. But there will be things going on, and you'll also get access to the talks that have not yet been released from the Polyglot conference. So I'll do my best to add some more of those in there as well, so that you can get some additional value, even if you have got a ticket already, so that I can add some extra value for you. I'll do my best. I can't make huge promises, but I'll do my best. So yeah, the idea is that we celebrate multilingualism. We have opportunities to talk and to maybe even speak in different languages. If you're interested in leading sort of a group and a chat and a conversation group in any language, I'd be very, very happy to hear from you. You can reach out to me and let me know, and we can put it in the program. So just let me know if you want to put something in the program, and be very, very happy to accommodate anything you need. All you need to do is check the program to make sure nothing clashes, and we'll be fine. So just let me know. So we're going to be doing that next week. So obviously, because that's happening, I won't be live on my channels as usual. Instead, I will organize a time where I speak to everyone and we interact on the live environment, the Polyglot conference live environment. So if you want to join my live next week, then please do sign up and make sure you come. I'd love to actually hear from you, and we can talk, and you can unmute and you can ask me your questions directly as well, and we can have a chat about languages and multilingualism and what it means. So if that's an additional draw to talk directly to me, then I would be very, very happy to see you there. But yeah, I will be available. I'll make myself available to talk, and I'll try and do it a couple of times during the day, not just once, so that we can interact and chat about languages, and maybe even in different languages too. So yeah, that's kind of what's in store for this multilingualism. Now, the road to multilingualism, when I launched this whole idea of this topic for today, was really all about your thoughts on what it means to be multilingual and what that is. I just want to share some thoughts based on the back of the question actually I got about what multilingualism is. Now, I did say that really multilingualism is just the Latin form of polyglot, and that's true. The Greek word is polyglot, from poly and orloses, polyglottes, many languages, or multilingual, many tongues, multilingual. So very, and they both mean language and they both mean tongues, whether it's orlosa in Greek or whether it's lingua in Italian, and Italian in Latin. They both mean tongue, and they both mean as in tongue as a language. So many tongues. I would say in the last few years, maybe the last even up to 10 years, for me, in English, and this isn't in other languages, this is just in English, the word polyglot has taken on a different flavor for me. I'll explain why. I think that polyglot in my head refers more to people who learn languages they don't necessarily need to learn. So somebody who goes out of their way to learn languages that they don't necessarily need. This is my very subjective definition, okay? I don't expect anyone to say, oh yeah, I totally agree. If you do, fantastic. If you don't, it's also fine. This is very subjective and I recognize that. But for me, that's what polyglot is. And the multilingual for me, in my head, because it's a more commonly used term, is the type of person who grows up speaking multiple languages. So somebody from Luxembourg, like the whole country of Luxembourg, you could describe as a multilingual country, a multilingual population, because they speak a minimum of 3 languages, usually as they go through their education system. And then they'll learn additional languages plus English as well. So that would be a multilingual society. There are many other multilingual societies in different parts of Africa, different parts of Asia, and in other parts of the world too. So that for me would be the difference between a multilingual and a polyglot. A multilingual wouldn't necessarily have that idea or ambition to learn something that's very far away from societal norms. So, you know, someone in Luxembourg may learn English and maybe Dutch or something that's a neighboring language that's taught in a school or at university quite commonly for them, or they could be from a Portuguese speaking family. Obviously Portuguese people are, I think it's the largest Portuguese immigrant group outside Portugal is in Luxembourg, in Europe at least. And so a lot of people do have Portuguese as a home language. Similar thing could be for Serbian or another language that's commonly spoken also by people who have moved to Luxembourg. So I'm talking about languages away from those kind of normal languages that people would expect to speak. And I think that polyglot is definitely someone who, for me, moves away from the normal languages that they need to speak for life. So yeah, I mean, this is where I see the difference, and this is where I think it makes sense to make that difference. And this is why this day is Multilingualism Day. Now, multilingualism is normal. It's the majority of people on the planet do speak more than one language. In English-speaking countries, that might seem a bit weird, particularly, but for most people in the world, we do speak more than one language. I mean, I am in the Balkans, and in the Balkans, for sure, people tend to speak more than one language. And in other parts of Europe and other parts of the world, people do tend to speak more than one language. So, but you can also say, if you prefer the term multilingual, I would never ever prescribe that you have to say polyglot or you have to say multilingual. You may use them interchangeably, you may use them as you wish. And whatever you agree with or whatever you identify as is fine by me. The important thing is we all like languages and we all learn languages, and that's for me the really the main thing. I just think it's really cool to have a day where we celebrate people who are interested and love and learn and speak more than one language. And so that's, for me, the day of multilingualism represents that. I think it makes more sense than calling it the day of polyglotism, for example, which in English, the word polyglot isn't that commonly used. It's more commonly used in a language like French. And in fact, French was the first language I ever heard the term polyglot used. When someone described me as such when I was in France. I think I was 14 years old and I was traveling from Paris down to the what's it called, the the Swiss border, and when I was on the train, I was using French, and then the person described me as a polyglot. And in French, you tend to use the word polyglot very quickly and very liberally, so it can even if you're bilingual, you'd be described as a polyglot very quickly. So it's quite interesting, and you see it in the Assimil courses as well. It's used. The term polyglot is used in some of those courses, which is quite interesting because it's not a word that you you really ever hear in English, apart from in the language community. So there we go. So I want to just describe that, and also what it means to me in sort of a short way, I guess. I know I normally do just half of this, these lives about sort of what I want to talk about, and then I'll come to the questions, and I promise I will. So for me, the whole idea of multilingualism, I mean, multilingualism is not something I grew up with necessarily, and it's something that I grew into, and my family life and my work life became very multilingual over years of language study and dedication to learning languages, to use them in a professional capacity as well as at home, and then moving around. I've lived in 9 different countries over my life so far, and worked or studied in those countries, and being able to communicate and do those different things in different languages, and being able to take the language with me. You know, some people will sort of collect trinkets from countries and they'll take them with me. For me, the most beautiful thing is I lived in the Netherlands and I took Dutch home with me, and I carry Dutch with me now. So kind of a part of my heart is always Dutch. I know it sounds a bit corny, and I am a bit corny, if I'm honest, but a part of me is always Dutch, and a part of me is always Czech, and a part of me is always French and Spanish and German, and all of these languages that I've studied and all the places I've lived are very personal to me, and they mean a lot to me. And I carry the memories of the people, and I carry the memories of my life in those different environments, and the words start to mean something. They're not just words I see. They have a meaning, and they have a feeling attached to them for a lot of the stuff that you learn when you live in an environment and you hear it, right? So I can't hear the word in Dutch, helaas, without thinking pindakaas. So helaas pindakaas, unfortunately, peanut butter. Um, because it goes together in Dutch culture. Or, there are certain words that if I hear something, it reminds me of that language or that culture. And if I learn a new language and it's got the word from the other language, it's very, very strange to carry these things, but it's part of the whole multilingual experience. When I learned the word for grandfather in Macedonian, it's dedo. But it always is associated with my finger, because dedo in Spanish is finger. And I think it will always be that way, that these words are just intrinsically linked to my past, my present, and who I am, the core of me. And even though I'm not a believer in changing my personality, I don't believe that my personality changes from language to language. I believe the lens through which people perceive me in each language changes, because how I act as somebody who grew up in the UK in different countries will be seen and viewed in different ways in different countries through different languages and different cultures. So I agree with that. But I intrinsically remain me. I still find the same silly things funny. So if something has a funny meaning in another language, I will laugh, and it won't be appropriate sometimes for the other culture, because they don't see that link in the same way. And this is all part of being multilingual. I think it's this third culture kid syndrome, that you almost grow into this third culture kid type identity through the multilingualism, that you no longer have a one place that you belong to, or one thing that you want to do. It's your ideals would be taking bits from so many different areas of the world, and it could be food, it could be customs, it could be celebrations, it could be so many different things that you want to take from different parts of the world to make your own little planet, right, where you can speak all these languages and have all these wonderful things that you picked up along the way. And that's kind of where I see it, and I think that's where I feel that I fit into the whole multilingual identity. And for me, it's always gonna be like that, and it's just gonna keep developing and changing. So I think it's hard for that to ever go away once you start on that road, and it's a really interesting road to tread. And seeing the links between cultures and the things we have in common across not just languages and cultures, but continents and time as well, through time. And generations. It's the journeys I've been on with learning language, seeing language that I know in some of the Balkan languages show up in Indonesian and show up in Swahili, and these are places that are so far away. It's and they're borrowings and they're things that have travelled, and we're connected by so many things, and I love exploring this. I think it's one of the most beautiful things about learning languages, and learning multiple languages in particular. So yeah, that's kind of where I come from when I talk about or think about multilingualism and multiple languages, and why I do it, and what really excites me about it. So I did have a couple of other thoughts that people had written. So thank you for writing on the Instagram. So someone said the road to multilingualism, patience and passion. Absolutely. Patience and passion are very good words to use when it comes to the road to multilingualism. A road to multilingualism is the one you decide to take with many ups and downs and many exciting experiences. I agree. Yeah. Sometimes we feel such a range of emotions when we go down this road. And I don't know, but it's not a one-way street for sure. No, I agree. It's not a one-way street. Absolutely. There are things that come from all sorts of different places that you can't imagine. Here we go. Someone being born in a country with 2 or more national languages. Yeah, it's amazing actually with national languages. Sometimes it's weird how they can be divided, and sometimes it's really interesting how they can be united with these multiple languages. And I really find it every time it's interesting. For me, cracking one language and then just keeping adding one more each time. Yes, absolutely. Tiff, exposing yourself to other languages so you can enjoy other cultures without translation. Yeah, there's something really special about that, I think. And the feeling you get from the words in a different way when it's not through translation is actually quite special. Homogeneous languages, consistency, prioritizing speech, most common words. Yes, that is a very interesting aspect of the road to multilingualism for sure. Thank you all for your comments. And what I will do is I will go back for anybody who is new to this live, my channels. Please remember to subscribe. Please remember to like, so that I can see you're here. We have more people on YouTube than have liked the actual live. So if you haven't liked it, please consider liking my content. I'd really appreciate it to see the love. For anybody new, what I do is I speak for the first half hour, usually max, and then I go through the questions. And if you're wondering why I haven't got to a question yet, it's because I need to go to the start so that I read them all in turn. So I'm going to start today on the YouTube channel, because I think I started on Instagram last time, and then I read the Instagram ones. So here we go. You don't think of yourself as multilingual. I think I read that one in the beginning. I grew up trilingual, and my opinion is that fourth language is always most difficult to learn. Yeah, JR, do you know what? I think with people who grow up speaking multiple languages, I think for them, it's actually almost talking about the first foreign language is the harder one. I don't know if it's the fourth for everyone, but I think it's the first foreign language. It's because almost you were given in a way a lot of the help to sort of start speaking or understanding a degree of fluency in the languages, right? If you just grew up speaking them. Whereas this doesn't mean to say that there's no effort involved. There absolutely is. But I think when you have to learn the first one again from scratch, even if you speak languages that are similar, it can feel like a lot of work all of a sudden, right? I get that. Apart from the love and the interest for languages, How not to forget languages you already know and lose the fear of forgetting while learning a new one. Good question, Español con Yolanda. So I don't really worry or mind if I forget parts of languages or even entire languages. I don't worry. For me, it's life is kind of, I see life in this way. It's not a linear thing where I know it's linear in that we move forwards from cradle to grave. I get that, right? But when I look at the life experience generally, I tend to look at it more in a 3D way. So my experience at a point in my life with a particular language is my experience with that particular language at a point in my life, and not necessarily more than that. So I'm quite happy with that having been an experience in my life. The same way as one day you may go to Milan on holiday, or to Cape Town, or to some other city or country in the world on holiday, or even stay there for a few months or years. But then you move away, and that experience doesn't stay with you to the present. In that it doesn't change. It's kept in kind of a capsule of this was you then at that point in your life. And so I look at knowledge in a similar way. So I trained as a network engineer. I am no longer capable of working as a network engineer. So that experience in my life remains in the past. But I went through that experience and I passed the exams necessary and I worked in that field. And now I don't. So I'm quite happy with things like that, and even ideas like language. And I think this is the thing, is we think of things that we can do or things that we learn as being something that we carry with us all the time. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we carry memories of them, and that's fine. So that's kind of how I feel about the idea of forgetting. I think there's always a memory with a language as well, so it doesn't always feel completely forgotten in the way that, for example, I don't know, I think what you could completely forget, but there's always a memory of something, right? Even if you lived in a place at a certain time, it's weird how like music and things from the culture remain part of you. You take them with you. But then you almost can't recognize what that country or what that culture has become later in life. If you go back, let's say, I've lived in countries and then gone back, and it's a very odd experience going back to a country you've lived in before, because you experienced it in one way and then you have a completely new experience of it. So I lived in Czech Republic before it joined the EU, and I was there when it joined the EU. And then I went back and spent a month or two there years later, and it was like it's like a different place. It was really, really strange for me to see it in those different contexts, but enjoyable. And a similar thing with going back and rediscovering a language. You can go back and do it. So I don't worry about it. I go with what I want to do, and don't worry about that. I know it's a long answer to a question, but it feels like a nice question. I like that question. Irene, bonjour, hello. I've related, made progress in French. French and hard first. Fantastic. I love all of your multilingual greetings, Irene. Thank you. John, let's see. The road to multilingualism is a long and winding road with detours and distractions, but there's some beautiful sights and many interesting people on the way, and it'll leave you feeling richer. Absolutely. What a lovely way of putting it, John. I love it. I absolutely agree. Yeah. Yeah. I often end up down some sort of really remote path in the forest, which is I think where I am at the moment. Yeah, absolutely. Bilingualism came up in French class recently, and we all had different opinions. B2, C1, C2. Grew up speaking two languages. I find people are kinder to others levels than to their own. Absolutely, Courtney. Yeah, it's an interesting discussion to have, actually. So bilinguals themselves are different. They come in all shapes and sizes. People who speak a language at home, as a home language, you may not use it in certain contexts, but you feel quite comfortable at home. But maybe you might not want to be able to you might not feel able to give a presentation on something you study or work on, for example, professionally. That happens quite a lot with other languages, home languages in particular, if we don't use them or we're not trained in them. Indonesia is a multilingual society too. We have like 900 languages. Yeah, and I love Indonesia. I love it. I love it. I love Indonesia. It's so nice. People are so friendly. It's one of my favorite places. Is because of how friendly the people were when I went. I loved it. I have 4 countries like that, but the people were just so friendly that I was just amazed by them. One was Indonesia, the other was Mexico, the other was Brazil, and the other was Botswana. And not in any particular order, I'm just sort of mentioning them all. But those 4 countries, my word, the people were so nice to me. So nice. I mean, like a different level nice. Lots of people in English-speaking countries speak more than one language. Absolutely, Timothy, you're completely right. Many people speak more than one language. Okay, Yoga Bliss Dance. Just want to highly recommend working with Richard on Patreon to be in a group where you can get his personalized attention. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the support. Yeah, I do have this Patreon page, and you're very welcome to join. And yeah, there are weekly groups that we have, and you'll be invited to join if you want to join. You're very welcome. And I will do my best to give you the help you need if you're interested in whatever it is you need, really. You're very welcome to join. There's a link as well in the description on it, and there's also now a link on my website, speakingfluently.com. There's a Patreon link now. Yay! Thank you to Adam for putting that up for me. I was first described as a polyglot by a Pole. Wow, Timothy, wow. Yeah, it's funny how in different languages it's used way more, right? I find that interesting. Hi, Richard, good to see you too, Rasmus. So remember, Luca Lampariello was a great video on how he does by incorporating them. Yeah, Luca is really good. I mean, look, I mean, most of you will know Luca before you knew me. He does so much stuff on YouTube and things, right? He's basically he's a beast of a man, and he's quite wonderful. Yeah, so I always recommend a lot of Luca's stuff because he puts out some cool stuff and he takes time to explain things as well. I love it. Let me see. There's a saying that goes, if you do something, take someone with you while studying languages. I am helping my grandchildren to study a language. My grandson studies Spanish. I love that, Irene. That's so nice. I love it. I love that you've got that connection with your grandson. That's so beautiful. Keith, nice to see you. I'm Keith Swain. Yeah, you were in. So Keith Swain is in the comments here in YouTube, on the YouTube chat, and he was in the Canadian show with me and with Tim Donor and with Steve Kaufman way back when. It's one of the first TV things that I did, and it was all very exciting. But yeah, Keith is one of the Canadian polyglots who was in that. Anyway, I'm multilingual and I own thousands of language learning books, but I've actually worked through a very small number of them. Do you often work through textbooks completely? Okay, I don't want to use percentages. Percentage-wise, probably not. But yes, I do tend to work through a textbook, like from cover to cover, usually. I tend to buy a few, look at them and see which one appeals, and then I stick with one and go through it, just because it helps to keep me focused. Otherwise, I feel I flit and float and get distracted too easily. So I do prefer to do that if I can. So in fact, that's one of the very common things that I talk about with people in the groups about how to be focused and how to maintain that level of just getting in and getting on with the job, right? And setting the goals and checking up on the goals. So a lot of things we talk about in the groups, what we've been doing, things that we found and come across, what we've been up to. They're really nice groups, actually. And I actually get people to bring words and things that they want to remember and they've discovered. And sometimes we get some really cool etymologies. I just absolutely love what people bring. And I call them the language learning therapy sessions, because that's what I see them as, like the therapy sessions, right? We talk about the ups and the downs and the fun stuff about language learning, but we talk about everything to do with our language learning journeys. And I love it. Um, Is anyone else having trouble studying Russian right now? I think there are a lot of emotions going on at the moment, Irene. So I have heard people say that. And some people have said that actually they want to learn Russian more because they want to understand what's being written in Russian more. So it's kind of an interesting thing. I have seen a lot of things to do with Ukraine. More people wanting to learn Ukrainian. Duolingo has recorded more people wanting to learn Ukrainian, which I think is fantastic. Also, I want to just give a huge shout out to the Teach Yourself team, because they've now released the Teach Yourself Completely Ukrainian free of charge on their app. So if you download their application, you can now download the Ukrainian book free of charge. And I think that's wonderful. And so just a huge shout out. So anyone wanting to learn Ukrainian, please do check that out. I wanted to sort of see what the appetite would be as well. We've been doing some Ukrainian group stuff in the Polyglot conference live environment as well. And I'm thinking of possibly doing a kind of a study group for it. People who speak it and people who speak it either at first language level or speak it fluently or speak it well would be welcome, but it would be aimed more at people interested in learning it, and the idea would be we would learn it together. But let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in something like that, and I will see what I can set up. But my thought would be that I would study it with you potentially, and we would actually use a book, we'd go through it, and we'd listen, and we'd go through all of the course as I normally do, and we'd learn a language together. Ukrainian, obviously, not just any language, Ukrainian. So let me know what you think. If there's enough interest in it, then I may well move forward with that idea. I'll see. I'll see how it goes. But it wouldn't start until at least the 3rd of April, because next week, obviously, with the multilingualism day, it will be a bit busy for me. So it will be after that, the week after that. But we will see where we land. But I'd love to hear from you. And if there is interest, and I see interest from this video, then what I'll do is I'll set up an application form to join, so that you can sign up, and I know how many, the numbers, and when you're available, and all that kind of stuff. But it would be free of charge. Obviously, I would just donate my time to spend to go through the book and to discuss it with us, and my role would be to pace us through it. So that would be my role, and it will be open for everyone who's sort of new to Ukrainian. I don't speak Ukrainian, but that is why I say anyone who does speak it would be welcome to help with feedback. But also, I don't want it to be something that goes too quickly, so that we spend the time for everyone to be able to be part of it. And we'll see how it develops. So yeah, let me know. Let me see. The next question. Okay. Do you think Greek seems like they speak in shorthand in as much as they have one word to most out of two? Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, Craig. I don't even know exactly what you mean by that, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's right. I've never thought of it like that. In terms of languages that I find really shorten words, Finnish, so spoken Finnish compared to written Finnish, is like basically almost like a different language. From when I was in Finland, I was learning this written Finnish, and then you hear people speak, and it's like completely different. So, but otherwise, there is diglossia in a lot of languages. I don't find Greek to be so extreme. I think Finnish for me is one of the more extreme cases of that. Welsh can be a bit like that, actually, like formal written Welsh, and then how people speak in Wales can be quite different. So it's like how I speak Welsh and how I see it written in like serious literature is often very, very in terms of especially the verb forms. Some of them are just like, whoa, they grow a lot. But finish is for me that example. In my experience, borrowed words in Japanese and French tend to be borrowed from English. Have you experienced borrowed words from non-English language? Do you find English tends to be the main source? So, Anna, good question. Actually, in the Balkan languages, you have a lot of borrowings from Turkish, and also there are a number of words from in Albanian, a lot of words from Italian, and also in Macedonian we have a number of German words, particularly for things related to cars. Have a lot of German words. So the word for an exhaust pipe, the word to go backwards, to reverse, is German. The word for the boot of the car is also German. Trying to think of anything else. I think there probably are, but I can't. There are other words, but I can't think of them. Oh, the word and some of the tools as well. Like the word for a screwdriver is German in Macedonian. There are a number of words like that from German. More recent borrowings do tend to be from English, particularly like internet terminology, things like that. But yeah, I mean, there are definitely a lot of borrowings from other languages, and some languages don't recognize where the words are from. So you have historically had like a lot of words into other languages. So there are a lot of German borrowings into Estonian, for example, that you can see patterns of how they've changed. There are also, and they tend to be things to do with daily sort of things like daily objects, food related objects, quite often things to do like the word for a beach in Estonian is the German word. It's changed, it's modified from Strand to Rand. And then Stück for a thing to Tük in Estonian for a part of something. So you get a lot of these kinds of things, and sometimes grammatical features will also be borrowed across from language to language. So yeah, that also happens. In Russian, you'd see a lot of French words, in a lot of languages, even languages like in Persian, in Armenian, and in Turkish, they would tend to say merci for thank you, and also in Bulgarian, merci for thank you, instead of they have other words like in Armenian. The other word for thank you, if memory serves, is shnurakaluchum. Any Armenian speakers, please do correct me. I'm up for correction. Shnurakaluchum, but they say merci. And in Turkish, you could say teşekkür ederim or teşekkürler for thank you, but people say merci. In Bulgarian, it would be blagodaria for thank you, but people use merci as well. People do. What I've noticed in recent years is people do tend to use blagodaria more now when I'm in Bulgaria than merci. But in the other ones, yeah, especially, I mean, I heard just the other day from an Armenian speaker that they tend to use merci. So yeah, you do. You get a lot of these words from other languages for sure. And a lot of languages have borrowed over centuries from other languages. So you have languages in Asia that have taken a lot. So I mean, Arabic has a lot of Sanskrit in it, for example. It's borrowed heavily from these things. That's why Thai spelling norms are completely crazy sometimes. For me, Stu J would kill me if you heard me saying this. So sorry, Stu J, if you're saying this. But yeah, I find Thai spelling to be a little bit crazy. And I think partly it's because of the amount of borrowing and words. So I gave up as a child trying to learn it properly. Much to the chagrin of my poor enduring stepmom. Find it easier to immerse in Russian now, following non-stop. Okay, yeah, Radio Svoboda, yeah, exactly. Okay, Ashva is a great question. I'd love to know this too. Okay, let's see. In my experience, borrowed words. Oh yeah, okay. No, that was the one I looked at. Okay, cool. Thank you for that question. It was a very good question, actually. I agree with you, Craig. Alex, I keep coming across words borrowed from French and languages. Yeah, there are loads from French. I agree with you about Indonesia. I had the privilege I lived in Jakarta for 2 years. Wow, Inga, you've been everywhere. I love it. And I studied at the University of Indonesia. I love it. Richard, what iPad do you use and what's the capacity in gigabytes? Very good question. Do you know? I can't remember. I can't remember. I can't remember. It's got a lot of memory on it, I know. I think it's like 128 gigabytes. Is that right? Feels like it's right. I don't know which iPad it is now off the top of my head, but I'm just gonna have a quick look and see if I can tell you. About, isn't it? It's under about. So it's an, oh dearie me. It's a 6th generation iPad. And yeah, and it's 128 gigabytes. So there we go. Just looked it up for you in the settings. I adore the etymology, even in languages I don't know. Yeah, I do too. I love etymology. Tiffany, I love your etymology stories every week. I think they're fantastic. I stopped learning Russian and started learning Ukrainian. Yeah, fair enough. I think we've got to do what we feel is right for ourselves with these kinds of things. I think it's a very personal journey, right? And there's not a right or a wrong thing to this. It's very personal. Did I hear Ukrainian study group? Great idea. Yeah, fantastic. I'm glad that you like the idea. The common people of Russia hasn't. Yeah, I do feel sorry for. I have friends in Russia, and they don't make decisions for the government, and they don't make decisions for what goes on, and I do feel sorry for them because they're also affected in different ways, but they're affected too, and a lot of people will have lost their jobs, lost their ability to earn money, and their expenses will have changed as well because of inflation, hyperinflation, things changing, the ruble crashing. So much is going on. It's super, super complex, and there are people suffering in Russia too as a result of this. It's absolutely so. It's nice of you to mention them. I think people do. I don't think that people ignore that. Not everybody is for what's going on, and it just because somebody's from a country doesn't mean that they inherently agree with everything. But we don't have the same rights to speak it out in the same way in every country, do we? And this is one of the things I think that on the internet, I think particularly we're guilty of this in the West, that we do sometimes forget that there are countries where it's not always possible to say everything and to speak in an open way. Unfortunately, it's not. It's the way it is, and I don't know how we change it. I wish I had the answers, but I don't know how we change it. So yeah, thank you for mentioning. I mean, we've got friends in our language learning community from Ukraine and from Russia, and they're still our friends. Yeah, it's not always so easy, is it? I'm interested in studying Ukrainian. I have already started a little bit in Duolingo. Fantastic. And you've ordered some textbooks. Good on you. Good on you. Hello, Ukrainian. I'm in. Fantastic. I love it. It looks like we're not going to have any trouble setting up a group, right? I've got started learning Ukrainian, my first introduction to languages. Okay, I'm struggling a bit. Yeah, it'll take time, but we'll see. I'm in. Fantastic. Do you have Reddit accounts? Any recommendations on any subs? I don't actually have a Reddit account, I don't think. Although I did do a live on it years ago. Maybe I still do. There's no mercy in Turkish as the way it exists in Persian. Some people rarely. Yeah, I know it's not common in Turkish, but I know that it did exist as a word. But yeah, I know people tend to see teşekkür and teşekkürler. Thank you for pointing that out, Halal. Sorry, Halil. I didn't mean to misrepresent Turkish, so thank you for correcting me and for pointing it out. Yeah, I agree. I don't use mercy in Turkish, but I was under the impression that it did exist. Had a similar experience with learning Tagalog as a child. The grammar of Tagalog is so difficult, I gave up. So, yeah. I think when you're a child as well, I mean, I was a kid, and we didn't have the resources we have now for learning languages. So, yeah, for Thai, it was particularly difficult. I tried my best to like keep up with it and to do things, but my Thai ended up just being very kitchen Thai that we had around the house. That was it. I had a similar experience with learning. Okay, I have recently returned to studying Ukrainian after a few years of Russian. Now I tend to read and speak with a Russian sound in Ukrainian, not specifically pleasant for my Ukrainian friends, not especially pleasant for my Ukrainian friends. I imagine they're used to hearing a Russian accent in Ukrainian. I think the fact that you're trying to speak it is the most important thing. Honestly, I am. You know, I've heard a lot of Ukrainians say like these, you know, the people were friends. You know what I mean? People, we don't necessarily lose all of our friends either. So I think there'll be understanding, especially as somebody who's not from either country. I will join the Ukrainian group. Fantastic, Irene. Ukrainian language got me in. Yay! I love it. I'm so enthusiastic about Ukrainian. I love it. This is not related to languages. But I'm glad I'm not the only one who thinks that Russian people are also the victims. Yeah. I think there are victims everywhere. You know what I mean? It's rarely just one side is bad and the other side is good. There are people who are not involved on any side of anything, and unfortunately their lives also get caught up in this. I realized Ukraine is a multilingual society because it has a lot of people who speak Ukrainian, Russian. And yeah, it's actually got quite a lot of ethnicities in Ukraine. A lot of people from different different linguistic backgrounds as well. So yeah, it's quite mixed. 25 years ago in Germany, you would find resources in English, French, Italian, Spanish, period. Russian was exotic already. The internet was not a thing back then to learn. Things have changed. They have indeed. Okay. So there's a TV show from the president of Ukraine on Netflix, and it's in Russian and not in Ukrainian. Interesting. Yeah, I think his first language is Russian, right? He grew up speaking Russian at home. That's what I understood. But he speaks Ukrainian as well. But I've noticed that he does speak in Ukrainian when I hear him on online now. I hear him speaking Ukrainian. Okay, I'm going to go over to the comments now on Instagram. Please do forgive me if it's taken me a while to get through all the comments. There were quite a lot of them, and I apologize for the delay. Salam, salam. Nice to see you. Wow. Let me see. Okay. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining. Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you. Okay. I'm seeing lots of hellos and lots of thumbs and lots of smiles and lots of things. It's very, very sweet. My name is Graciano. I would like to meet you. Is it possible? Potentially, yes. I'm hoping that the Polyglot conference will go ahead in Mexico, but I also want to organize some language events in different parts of the world as well. I hope that I'll be able to make that possible this year. See how it goes, and watch out, because I'll obviously let you know on these channels. Hello. I love it. Okay. I suppose my children growing up in an environment with a Spanish French, English as multilingual, but they aren't yet interested in other languages. No, and that's absolutely normal, Jonathan. Absolutely normal. I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, and kids don't necessarily. I mean, I spoke to my daughter in different languages, not because I wanted her to be another me or another polyglot, just because I wanted to give her something that was free. And if she wants to learn more languages, great, but she doesn't have to. She doesn't want to. She can study whatever she wants and do whatever she wants and be whoever she wants. Yeah, I just wanted to be a strong, empowered person, and that's really all that matters to me. and I don't, yeah, and to do good things. Obviously, I don't want her to use that power for bad things, but I would like her to be empowered and feel strong in who she is, and feel accepted in who she is, and use the languages she wants to use, and make that choice. It's her life, it's not mine. I can only, as a father, I can only give what I can give. Money can be spent, but the language knowledge hopefully stays with her for a bit longer. Yeah. How old's my child? Oh, how old she's so she's 14. She's going to be 15 this year. Yeah, and she speaks English, Macedonian, French, Spanish, and German. Yeah. She understands some other languages, like she's had exposure to a number of other languages. So she understands Serbian, she understands Bulgarian, she understands Italian to a degree. We had like a 4 or 5 year period when she was a lot younger with an Italian family we were very close to here. And I used to speak in Italian to them all the time because they didn't speak English or Macedonian, so we could only communicate in Italian, really. And we didn't change languages for my daughter. We just spoke in Italian, and they spoke to her in Italian too. But it's been a while since she's been exposed to Italian, so I don't know how confident she'd be now in understanding it, but she was at a time. She was quite confident in Italian. I'm glad you're enjoying the thoughts from this. Thank you very much. A multilingual polyglot who speaks several languages, not to be redundant. I love it, Jonathan. That's hilarious. A multilingual polyglot. That sounds really funny. I love it. Maybe that can be somebody's blog, right? The multilingual polyglots. That'd be hilarious. Somebody should grab that domain. It's brilliant. What a relatable way of describing multilingualism. I'm really pleased to see some of you appreciate and that resonates with you, the idea of this, which may explain once because of yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad that resonates with a few of you as well. Thank you for your kind words. Yeah, Indonesian. Oh, you're very welcome, kind words. Indonesians are just so much fun. You're such a lovely, welcoming nation of people. I mean, I had the best time in Indonesia. The people were just, for me, I mean, it's a beautiful country, don't get me wrong, but the most beautiful thing about the country is the Indonesians themselves. I just thought you were absolutely wonderful people. Just really liked it there. Really liked. I could very happily live in Indonesia. Just wonderful people. Yeah. Let me see. We have quite many Swedish words in Finnish and some Russian as well. Yes, you do. You do. You have and some Finnish words in Swedish too, right? Like poika. Poika is the word for a boy in Swedish and also from Finnish. Yeah. From my bakkosona. Let's see. Est-ce que tu veux parler avec... Est-ce que je peux parler avec vous? Oui, bien sûr. Ouais, on peut parler en plusieurs langues. En ce moment, je parle en anglais, mais c'est bien possible de parler et écrire en plusieurs langues aussi. Il n'y a pas de problème. Hein? If I meet Ukrainians, I talk to them in Russian. Would some of them get mad? I don't speak Ukrainian to be able to communicate. Look, I mean, Russian, it's an interesting thing, right? So I was told many years ago that if you speak Russian to Ukrainians, they didn't like it. And this was before what's happening now. I was in Lviv, and Lviv is like the most Ukrainian-speaking city in Ukraine. And no one really worried about me speaking Russian. I don't speak Ukrainian, but I speak Russian to a degree to communicate, right? No one reacted badly to me speaking Russian at all. I did say, like, I top and tailed it with like hello, and I tried to say hello and thank you in Ukrainian to sort of make it more palatable, but no one reacted badly. And yeah, I don't know how people will feel at the moment. It's a very difficult thing to say now. It's a very difficult thing to second guess. But as a non Russian or Ukrainian speaker having learnt the language, and you're trying to communicate. So I mean, every individual is going to react differently, I guess, right at the moment. But there are many Ukrainians who speak Russian as their home language, as their first language. So it's a language of Ukraine that a lot of people speak. And some of them don't speak Ukrainian that comfortably, or they don't feel as comfortable in Ukrainian. They feel more comfortable in Russian, and so it's a mixed society. It's not just one thing. So also, I found generally with Russian, it's been quite a good language in a number of other countries I've been to. Like I used it in Georgia, I used it in I've used it with Russian speakers in other countries I've traveled to. So like places like Turkey, even Cyprus, I've used Russian. I've used it in Czech Republic. I've used it in Moldova, obviously. I've used it in Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan went down less well, but in Kazakhstan, zero problem at all using Russian. And in Moldova, obviously, I had no problem speaking Russian either. You had to use it with some people. A lot of the Russian speakers didn't speak Romanian, so I spoke Russian. But yeah, with Ukrainians, I guess it depends on the Ukrainian at the moment. I think, feelings are emotions are high. So yeah, I think it's patience and understanding, but people like to be able to communicate, right? So yeah, okay. I see this here. You talk with Ukrainians in Russian every day, yeah. So okay, it seems like it's still the same as I experienced. People didn't really worry. Yep. Ukrainians speak Russian and it's okay. Yeah. Okay. It's nice to hear some more points of view on this. Thank you for adding them. Yeah, I mean, language is language is language is language. I know it can get mixed up in countries and politics. Personally, I wish language and politics could be divorced a little bit. I find it problematic sometimes. Yeah. But in Swedish, they write, pojke. Yeah, exactly. They don't write it in the same way, exactly. Yeah. He speaks like a French native speaker, or even better. Thank you. French is my mother tongue. Ah, merci, c'est très gentil. En fait, je parle français avec ma fille. Je parle avec elle en français. En ce moment, je parle beaucoup plus en anglais pour le moment. Mais d'habitude, je parle en français avec elle. Ouais. Donc, merci bien, c'est très gentil. I'm pretty sure you understood all Slavic languages, don't you? I do understand. Okay, so I'm going to caveat what I said about Ukrainian. I don't speak Ukrainian, but I do understand it. So I could read a newspaper probably in Ukrainian. I can understand when it's spoken to me. So people have spoken to me in Ukrainian and I've answered in Russian or a mixture of whatever else. And yes, I can understand it because I've studied Russian and I've also studied Czech and Polish, and I've also studied Slovak for a brief time. And Ukrainian kind of straddles that boundary of those language groups. So yes. And also remember that I do have a Slavic language as a home language. So when you have a Slavic language as a home language, none of the other Slavic languages ever really feel very foreign again. And I've been speaking a Slavic language at home for 17 years. It's not a short period of time; it's a long period of time. So I've explored them quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call myself, if I were to learn Ukrainian, I wouldn't say I'm a complete beginner, because that would be unfair to say that. But I would definitely not rush anybody, and my goal would be to include as many people as possible. Russians are very useful in former Soviet states. Georgians don't like to use Russian sometimes. Yeah, that's right. For political reasons, they don't. Yeah, you're right. I did come across that. more so outside of Tbilisi. Tbilisi, they found that it was easier to use Russian. Like Kosovo Albanians don't like to use Serbian sometimes. Yeah, that's also true. It's interesting actually. When I go to Kosovo, I speak Albanian. So I just speak Albanian with people. And if I speak it, my wife doesn't speak Albanian, but I do. But then if my wife says something, then they're a lot happier to speak in either Serbian or even you find a lot of people on the border speak Macedonian as well. So, or a version of like Macedonian, right? So it's quite interesting. But yeah, you're completely right. Sometimes some Albanians told me that I speak well Bosnian, although I speak Serbian. Yeah, well, the thing is, it gets mixed up here a lot. The idea of what you call the language gets mixed up. So during the Yugoslav wars, we had a lot of people moved down from Bosnia and stayed and settled in the very south of what was Yugoslavia, and so we do talk about Bosnian here as well. So we don't just talk about Serbian; we talk about Bosnian and Serbian as languages that are minority languages used here. So yes, it could also be to do with that as well, and the experiences they've had. So yeah, it's an interesting thing, and they may not differentiate in the same way as you do. But yeah, that's absolutely absolutely understandable. Let me see. I think I've got to. I think the maximum of children. Okay, I think I'm amazing. I think I'm what's it called? I think I'm maybe a bit behind on some of the YouTube ones. I'll try and catch up, and then I'll disappear because I've been on for an hour and 11 minutes. Some people did write to me and say you should make these shorter. I'm so sorry. The first bit's me talking. The second bit's me doing the Q&A. So if you ever find yourself at the end of one of these and think, okay, I want to hear the main theme, or you can always stop it and watch it later if you want. Okay. Let me see. Oh, your daughter's an amazing teenager. Thank you very much, Sadna. That's very kind of you. I think around 5 to 6 is the maximum for children. There is a little Russian girl that speaks 5 or 6 languages. Yeah, I've met her actually in person, and her parents. They were in Canada at the Langfest, and she was very, very sweet. Bella, her name is. She was very sweet, and she seemed very happy. Actually, she seemed like a very happy, well-adjusted child, and was playing around just like any other regular kid. And yeah, spoke these languages. It was quite cool. She was lovely. Is the Russian government trying to get rid of the Ukrainian? I don't know, JR. I don't know. I have no idea. I couldn't comment on that at all. I don't know. I don't know what that would bring, because the language is there. So it's yeah. I mean, it's very political. I don't know. Languages and politics shouldn't get married in the first place. No, I don't think they should. I don't. I'm not a huge fan of politics and languages. I think it can sometimes, yeah, it can be the kiss of death. And one of my New Zealand friends said about Maori once, that some people in the Maori community saw Maori being made as an official language of New Zealand being actually not the best sign. Strangely, it surprised me when I heard that. And if anybody else from that community sees this and hears this, please do let me know. Comment to see if you've heard that too, or if it's how you feel, or if you feel differently. I would be interested in seeing. But I was interested to see that. And I've heard that said about Irish in Ireland, although Irish is now on the increase, and now it's an official language of the EU, right? It's been made a fully fledged language of the EU, which I'm very, very pleased about. Especially now learning Irish, I feel quite special. So let me see. May I ask what you do when you find yourself and you're not improving after a speaking sessions? Oh, that feels like it might take me a bit too long to go into now because I've got to finish. But I will see if I can. These are the kinds of things I definitely do answer on Patreon and in my groups. We talk about this quite a lot, this kind of stuff. But I will look at doing it on the lives as well. as I say, I'm very much for inclusion, but it is a longer answer, unfortunately, more than I have time to go. Have I considered learning a Baltic language? Yes, and I have. I studied Latvian. I went to Latvia, spent some time there. Okay. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to disappear. It's been a delight and a pleasure to be with you again. Remember, next week, I won't be live on my YouTube and Instagram channels. Instead, you are very welcome to join me at the Day of Multilingualism, which you can find the link to the ticket on the video on YouTube. It's in the description. You're very welcome to join. If you have problems, you can always just register on the polyglotconference.com website and just register, and it'll take you through. It's a different looking ticket, but it will give you access to the same area. You're very welcome to use that too. And I will see you there, and I will do a live chat from inside that event next week. And I'll be able to answer your questions directly because you will be on a call with me. So we will have direct communication, and I will very much look forward to it. And as I say, it's donation based. I don't expect anything. You can also use the free ticketing option as well. There's options. Just read it and make sure if you buy a ticket, read the ticket with the instructions on. They're at the bottom of the ticket. You will find them, and you can register properly and get through onto the site. I'm very much looking forward to. Do you have to have your cameras on? Not necessarily, but you do need to be registered on Zoom. You have to have a Zoom account for it to work. So if you do come, you need to have a Zoom account because it needs to verify that you are a person, because we want to minimize the risk of anybody coming in and doing something silly, like Zoom bombers. So there we can then identify you, and we can identify you through Zoom if somebody does something crazy. Not you personally, but if somebody comes in and does something crazy. Otherwise, we're very happy. It's extremely off-putting when somebody does a Zoom bombing thing. So yes, we minimize that by having everybody has to have an account and be logged in, and then we can track if anything goes wrong. We can then report and get people tracked properly. So yes, that's the only thing you need to do. You need to have a ticket, register for the site, for the live environment, and register. Make sure you have your Zoom account and be logged in when you come in, and it will work. Thank you so much for coming, for keeping me company today. It's been a pleasure, as always, to spend Sunday afternoon / evening for me with you, and I look forward to seeing you again next week at the Day of Multilingualism. I'm very excited. And remember, feel free to suggest any sessions you want to do to practice languages. You're very welcome to do that, and I will add them to the program so that we can practice languages together as well. I would very much enjoy that. Take care. See you soon. And remember to like and to do all that nice stuff. And I will really appreciate it. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.